Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this webcast today on sketch mode best practices. So we're going to wait a few minutes just to let more people join into this webinar, and then we'll get started. Again, welcome everyone to the webinar. We'll just wait a few more minutes to let more people join in. Just a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our webinar today. Again, thanks for joining into this webinar. We're going to talk about sketch mode best practices. My name is Oscar Salas. I work as an application engineer for TriStar. And, we're going to spend just about 30 minutes talking about sketch mode. You also have the option of asking questions. So towards the end, I'll go through any questions that come up, and then we'll have a few minutes for answering those questions towards the end. Again, just feel free to type any questions on the GoToMeeting interface there. So first, we'll start off with a few offers that TriStar is running right now. First, we have 35% off on Creo simulation and analysis solutions. Okay, so that's something that's going to be valid through June 30th. The next offer that we have, we're running virtual training. So instead of you having to go into a training center, you actually sit down at your computer and through GoToMeeting, we run the training online. The benefit of GoToMeeting is that if you have any questions, you can ask those questions. If you're having problems, you can always share your screen with the instructor. He can take a look at what's going on. And again, it's convenient because you don't have to go to a training center. You're sitting at your desk and you're taking this training. And again, there are some discounts on this as well. And then valid as well through June 30th. So it's all under our website. So it's going to be tristar.com/PTC-training /training bundle TLO. Okay, that's going to be the website where you can find more information about this. And then also MathCAD. MathCAD has a 36% discount valid through June 30th as well. So those are the offers that we have right now. Now for going into our webinar today, this is what we're going to cover today. So we're going to go over the internal sketch workflow. We're going to go over the ways of selecting references and adding references into your sketch. We're going to talk a little bit about dimensions and constraints. We're going to talk about the Sketcher palette, and then we're going to go over just a couple Config.pro options that might be helpful for you guys. Again, at any point you guys have any questions, type them in. Towards the end, we'll have time to go over those questions. So now when it comes to the internal workflow, now a default in Creo Parametric is that you're going to have sketch on a 3D orientation, right? Also, you have the ability to orient your sketch on the fly. You no longer have to see that sketch dialog box. So all you have to do is just select the tool that you want to use, click on your sketching plane. So that will automatically take you into Sketcher. Now that you're in Sketcher, if you need to orient a specific way on the sketch, you can do that on the fly. You don't have to, specify that before you go into the sketch. This is going to get you less clicks. Your model tree is going to be better organized. Also, you're going to be a lot more efficient with it. Less features in that model tree, easier to understand. So we're gonna see a little bit of that here in a minute. So I'm going to show you guys that new sketch workflow. And then they added several ways to do references. So the first one is one that it's been around for a while. So it's just the sketch references dialog box where you open it, you select any references you want. Also, if you hold down the Alt key in your keyboard, you can go in and select any references. So let's say I want to use a surface as reference. You select it by holding down the Alt key, and then if you right click, you're going to get an option that says Add References. The next thing is going to be on the fly. So let's say you started creating a rectangle or a circle, whatever shape you want, and then as you're creating it, you realize that you have to use a reference. So if you hold down the Alt key in your keyboard, select the reference. When you let go of the Alt key, now that reference is going to be automatically added. So now you can use it. So in the example that I have here on the screen, that's similar to what we're going to go through, is we start creating this this rectangle, and then we realize that we want to use this cylindrical surface as our sketch references. So we hold down the Alt key. Temporarily, the rectangle will be suspended. I can move my mouse, select the reference. When I let go of the Alt key, now I'm going to be able to use that reference to snap onto that rectangle. right? So that's going to be another way. And then the last way is as you're creating dimensions. So you don't need to define dimensioning references before. All you need to do is while you're creating your dimensions, right, you can just simply click on the references that you want to use, and they will be automatically added to your references. So those are some of the ways how you can add references in Creo Parametric. The next thing we're going to see is a little bit on dimensions and constraints. So we're going to talk a little bit about weak and strong dimensions, right? Weak dimensions are dimensions that the system will throw at you. By default, they show up on a light blue color, and then we have strong dimensions, which are dimensions that you create, and these dimensions are going to show up in that strong blue color. Now, you have the ability to customize these colors. Again, at any point, you can just, they're blue on both, so you probably want to use different colors. Also, there are some types of dimensions that are probably not as common as the regular length and diameter and those dimensions, like a revolve diameter dimension. That if you're creating a revolved feature, it could be a helical sweep, it could be just a revolved a solid revolution, right? So in this case here, you do have the ability to specify a diameter dimension inside of the sketch as the two dimensions showing up over here, the 145 and the 330 and the 375 over here. Also, dimensioning arcs. You have the option of dimensioning the length of the arc, or you have the option of dimensioning the angle. And pretty much what this is just the clicks that you do are going to determine what type of dimension you get. And then you can, once the dimension is created, you can always convert it between the length and the angle for the arcs. Also, for radial diameter dimensions and linear dimensions, you do have the ability of selecting a dimension, right-clicking on it, and converting it into the other options that you have. Then we're going to go a little bit over constraints. Now, constraints, you can apply constraints as you're creating your sketches, right? So you don't have to wait until you complete the shape and then constrain it. As you're creating your lines, you can apply constraints. Now, the nice thing about this is sometimes you might need to lock one of those constraints. So you have the ability to lock a constraint as you're creating it. In the example that we have here is that, we have a parallel constraint that's showing up. So as we go and get that parallel constraint, we can lock it. So now, sometimes they're pretty sensitive, and if you move your mouse a little bit, then that constraint will go away. So by locking it, now your mouse it doesn't matter where it goes, that constraint is now locked, and now you're just defining the length of that line that you're applying. So we're going to see how to do that, and that's pretty much done through the right mouse button. And again, as you're creating your constraints, you have the ability, to just do them on the fly as you're creating any entities that you're looking for. Now, the Sketcher palette. So this one, it's a tool that's within Sketcher, and this one's going to give you by default 4 tabs, right? So you get polygons, profiles, shapes, and stars. Those are the 4 tabs that are there by default. But you can also create your own sketches, and you can point the Sketcher palette to pick up those sketches that you have created. That's going to be, pretty useful for common shapes that you use over and over again. As you're placing those sketches, the system will give you the ability to scale the sketch, rotate the sketch as well, and then you place it where you want it, so you can constrain it as you're after you bring it into your screen. So those are some of the things again that we're going to see on the Sketcher palette, and this is going to be something that by default you get 4 tabs, and then you can point it so that it will pick your sketches automatically. And then the last thing that we're going to see is just a few Config.pro options, right? When you go into the main menu, File, Options, then you get your configuration editor, right? This is your Config.pro. From here, one of the items that we're going to see is regarding the palette. One is it's to point it into your own sketches. So that's going to be a 2D_palette_path. Okay, so if you create a directory where you're saving sketches that you use over and over again, you can just point this Config.pro to that directory, and the system will automatically add a tab onto your Sketcher palette. The next thing is going to be the new way of or the default way now of creating sketches is that it remains on the 3D orientation. And especially for existing users, sometimes it's kind of odd because previous versions it always been that it starts on that 2D orientation since it's a 2D entity, right? So the Sketcher _starts_in_2D, that's the Config.pro that will automatically orient that sketch into that 2D orientation as soon as you get into the sketch. And then the last one is going to be the sketcher underscore dimension underscore auto lock. And what this one does is sometimes you don't want to be able to drag dimensions around. You want to make sure that after you apply that dimension, it's going to be completely locked, right? There's going to be no way of dragging it, no way of by accident moving it around. So if you set this Config.pro option, as soon as you create a dimension, instead of making it a strong dimension, what the system is going to do is going to give you the ability to lock it. So it's just going to be locked, and now it's going to show up in a red color instead of that blue color. So those are, again, just a few of the Config.pro options that you can use within Sketcher. So now we'll go into Creo Parametric, and we're going to start seeing a little bit of this functionality within the software. So let me go over here real quick. So we're going to start by creating an extrusion. We now click on the plane that we want to use as a sketching plane, and now we're automatically in Sketcher. And again, remember that the default is going to be to use that 3D sketch. So if we start selecting the tools that we want to use, and then again, one of the examples here, creating that constraint on the fly, right? So as you're creating your sketches, the system will notify you when you actually have a constraint. In this case, my two endpoints are vertical to each other. Then I can create my dimensions, and the right mouse button is going to be pretty useful. So you get pretty basic tools from here. So if I want to create a dimension, I can just right click on it, select your references, middle click to place that dimension, and then we specify our value. Another thing is you can select a dimension, and you can actually convert a dimension. So in this case, it came out with the radius, so I want to convert it into a diameter, and I can just enter the value that we need. Also, another thing within Sketcher is if I complete the sketch at this point right here, by looking at the extrusion, I have it set as a solid. So in previous versions, the system actually didn't allow you to complete the sketch at all. So now what it does, it automatically converts this into a surface. So notice that it's going to give you a warning message that's going to tell you, hey, no solid geometry to intersect. So it's impossible to make a solid out of that feature. If you just click OK, the system will automatically change this into a surface. Now we're going to go back in and modify the sketch. And now we're going to just close it. So we'll just make a couple lines here. And again, notice how my constraints will show up. One way to lock a constraint, right? So if we, let's say I want to create this arc right here. When the radius dimension comes up with the equal radius constraint comes up, if I do a click on the right mouse button, that will lock that constraint. So as I'm creating it, now I'm constrained to only that equal radius. So that's going to be a good way of just making sure that you get the correct constraints. And you don't have to go back later and apply your constraints to the shapes that you're looking for. So then we just return this back onto making it into a solid, and then we click OK. The next thing that we're going to see on this one, so we're going to create another extrusion, and same way again. Notice how less clicks. Notice that by doing that, you don't see that sketch dialog box. So all it does, it just automatically takes you into Sketcher. If I click on this icon, it'll take me to my sketch view. So it'll turn it into a 2D orientation. So if you like sketching on the 3D orientation, but sometimes you may need to go into the 2D orientation, this is the icon that will take you there. And then if you need to orient the sketch on the fly, so let's say, you know what, I actually want to orient the sketch so that this is facing towards the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click. You get this option that says section orientation, and then from here, you can set your references. So I can set my vertical reference, and then I can click on a reference. And notice how this time it flipped it upward. So I can right click again, section orientation, and I can flip my section orientation so that now it's facing down. Another way to add references, and again, the default way we've always used is the references dialog box that will come up and will allow you to select any references. They added a right mouse button click to add the references here. So as you go over here, you can just simply click on the references, and it'll open this dialog box for you. Now, the new ways, or the other ways of adding references will be by holding down the Alt key. I'll select the reference that I want to use. Then you right click, and notice how you get this button that says add references. That will add this to your references right there. And then the other way to add a reference, let's say we start creating a rectangle. At this point, I realize that I need to use a reference. So if you hold down the Alt key in your keyboard, you click on the reference that you want to use. So notice how the rectangle temporarily gets suspended here. You click on the reference that you want to use, and now you can use that reference. Okay, so that automatically adds that cylindrical surface as my reference. And then we just create another dimension again. The right mouse button is going to be very, very useful. So the more you get used to the options on the right mouse button, the faster you're going to be when creating the models. So then we just modify this our dimension values, and then we can just we'll make this metric, and then we end up with our shape right there. So that's again just a quick example on how to add references, how to work on your 3D sketches, how to use that internal sketch workflow. Now let's go a little bit over dimensions, right? So we have a few examples here on dimensions. So let's go over the revolve diameter dimension. So this one here, what it is sometimes you're creating a revolve feature, and you might need to show a diameter, a diameter dimension. So in this case here, we have our sketch created. The requirement for this one is that you need to have a center line within the sketch. So by selecting your dimension tool, you select the reference that you want to dimension, you go up to the center line, and then you come back to that same reference that you want to dimension. When you middle click, this will give you that revolve diameter dimension right here. I'll show it to you again. So you go into the reference that you want to dimension. You click on the center line, and again, you need to have this center line. You click on the reference again, you middle click, and it'll give you the revolve diameter dimension right there. So that's one dimension that's not too common to use, but when you're creating a helical sweep, if you place your axis of revolution first, and then after you create your profile, the system will give you automatically this type of dimension. Okay, that's something that's enabled by default. The other one is when you want to dimension the length of an arc, or let's go over the angle first. So we add a definition on this one, and we select dimension tool. So the way you dimension the angle of an arc is that you select the end point of the arc, the center point of the arc, the other endpoint, then you middle click, and this will give you an angular dimension. Okay. Now, if you want to dimension the length of the arc, this one's going to be a little bit different on the workflow. So what you do is you click on the arc itself, then you select the two endpoints, you middle click, and that will give you the length of the arc. Now, once this dimension is created, sometimes because of the workflow and you miss on what you're supposed to select, and you come up with a dimension like this here. So if I select it, I can right click and say convert to angle, or back to convert to length. Okay, so you get those convert options by selecting the tool. And the other thing that we have is also converting between radius, diameter, and linear dimensions. So if I create a diameter dimension, I can select it, right click, and I can convert it to radius, or I can convert it to a linear dimension. So if you go radius, now you get that radius dimension. Right click again, convert to diameter, and now it'll come back to that diameter dimension. And those are the conversion tools. The other thing is applying constraints, locking and disabling constraints as you're creating your sketches on the fly. So this is going to be important, right? Because it'll make it a lot easier for you to work on your sketches. It'll just be a lot faster. So what we do here is we start by creating the line. Notice how, again, the intent manager, what it does, it tries to guess what you're trying to do, right? So you need to move a little bit farther away if you don't want to make it vertical. So in this case, if we want to do vertical, we do here. We go in this direction. Notice how, again, it'll show you a constraint. But what if I don't want to lock that line, or I don't want to constrain that line to the center point of the arc up there on the top? So that's telling me that that endpoint is going to be constrained to that center point of the arc. If you do two right clicks on it, it will disable that constraint. So that'll get you, you're going to be approximately right there, but you will actually have a dimension for that one. So that's how, again, 2 clicks will allow you to disable a constraint. And then if you want to lock a constraint, again, sometimes it might be difficult to get a constraint. So when you get it and you need it, you want to lock it. And what you do is you do a short click on the right mouse button. This will completely lock that constraint. So it doesn't matter where your mouse pointer goes. Now that constraint is going to be locked. And then we can just continue creating our lines. And again, remember that the constraints will show up on the fly, right? So, it'll show that equal length. Now, in this case, that equal length, it's something that I don't want. I want to actually constrain it vertical to the other endpoint. So you do 2 clicks in order to disable that constraint. Now my third constraint will come up, and now I can just come in straight vertical into that one. So that's some of the options that we have within Sketcher. Then we'll go over the Sketcher palette here. So so we're going to place some sections. And this one here. So we're going to use that Sketcher palette. And what this is, it's this tool right here. When you open it, it's going to come up with four tabs that we have here. So polygons, you get from a triangle all the way to a 20-sided dichotomy. You go from different profiles, so it gives you 4 profiles: C profile, I profile, L profile, and T profile. It's going to give you some shapes, and then it's going to give you stars from 3 tips all the way to 20 tips. So that's kind of default. And again, if you set the Config.pro option that we mentioned earlier, then you can add more tabs onto here. So you can have multiple entries of that Config.pro and pointing into different directories, and it will automatically add them onto here. The way you work on this one, let's say we want to bring a hexagon over here. This window right here at the top is just a preview, just, so you can see the shape that you're bringing in. If I want to place this section, you want to drag it and you want to drop it somewhere over here. Now, as you're dropping it, I know I want to place it in these references, but right now, what I want to do, I want to place it a little bit farther away. So I'll place it right here. Notice that my scale is pretty small, so I'm going to change this scale to about 5. That way, I get something bigger to work with. This handle right here is the one that actually snaps onto the references. So if I want to move that handle, maybe I want to snap my references onto maybe this vertex right here, with the right mouse button, I have the ability to drag it and place it right there. So that way, it'll snap right on that location. Okay, so that's something that we'll have the option of doing. So now I can bring it back with the right mouse button, put it in that center point, place this over here. Let me modify my scale again. Let's do about 3, and then we'll complete the placement of that one. So that's going to be the Sketcher palette. And again, I know this is pretty brief, but if you guys have any questions on any of this, feel free to ask those questions right now. So we got about 4 minutes left on the webinar here. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in at this point, and then I'll review them and I'll answer those questions. If you guys don't have any questions, one more thing I would like to cover is just we have the PTC's LiveWorks 2016 that's going to be held in the city of Boston, and there's also some discounts on that. So just feel free to just visit our website and to get more information on this PTC event that's coming up here from June 6th through the 9th. So again, guys, if there are, hold on, let me see, we might have some questions here. From Joshua, no, they're not only applied to Creo 3.0, they will also apply to Creo 2.0, most of them. And then, for example, if you like the option of sketching on a 3D orientation, that's something that you can actually do from Wildfire 4.0, I believe. You can enable it, but the default is set to no. So what they did is, starting on Creo 2.0, they changed that default to yes, so that it will allow you to sketch on that 3D orientation. The Config.pro to, let me go back over here. So from Colin, the Config.pro to add tabs to the Sketcher palette. So I'll go back here on the on the PowerPoint to show you guys those Config.pro options. So that's going to be 2D_palette_path. Okay, so that's the one that will allow you to add multiple tabs to your Config.pro. So you know, those are right now. Yes, Tyler. So the webinar is being recorded. So what that means is later on we'll give you the ability to go back into our website, and you'll probably get a follow-up email on the location of the website, and it'll give you you know, the link of where you can review it on your own time, and you can just, you know, pause it, rewind, whatever you need to do. And I know we got our time pretty limited, so you know, it's pretty quick that we go through through what we have to show you guys. Let's see if we have any other questions here. So Frank, do you have Frank, do you have a question? Not sure if there's a question. Okay, so I got one more question here that says, what's the difference between weak, strong, and locked features? So that's for dimensions. So a weak dimension is a dimension that gets thrown by the system. Okay, so as soon as you create anything in Creo, your sketches are always fully defined. So that means that the system throws dimensions at you. When you create dimensions, those are considered strong dimensions. However, you can still drag a strong dimension. So that means that, you know, I have a line, and if I drag the endpoint of that line, it'll modify that dimension. A locked dimension, what that one will do, it will prevent any dragging from happening. So, you know, if it's something that's pretty set, you don't want to modify it by accident, a locked dimension, that's what it will do. So that's those are the you know, the questions that have come up so far. So you know, if you guys don't have any other questions, I want to thank all of you for joining in this morning. And you know, again, my name is Oscar Salas, and you can go into our website. You can look at our email address there, and you know, any discounts that we talked about, any information that you want, you can find it there on our website. So again, if there are no other questions, thank you guys for joining in, and you know, hope to see you in the future webinars that are coming up here in the next few weeks. Thanks so much.